Welcome back to another episode of Circle of Trades. I'm Todd Studer, and in the virtual studio, we have Travis Waldstein, Air Surf Heating and Air Conditioning, and Waldstein Plumbing. Grateful as always, and I'm still trying to figure out when it is that you're going to correct everybody on the pronunciation of your name, because I keep hearing Waldstein over and over and over again, and I'm the only one calling you Waldstein, which is how you pronounce it.
It's Waldstein. I'm German, not Jewish. So, me going to the German concentration camps in World War II was no bueno. So,
right.
So there is a difference. And actually, the truth be told, my family got in trouble in Sweden. So they had to go to Germany, get their last name changed, come back, get the rest of the family before they came stateside. So back in the day, back in the 17 or 1800s, we were a bunch of criminals. So
hey, I got one for you too. I mean, if you follow back the matriarch side of my family, and like my mother's father, his name was Brown, last name Brown. Well, when the ancestors came over from Germany, it had been changed from Braun. Know anybody famous with the last name Braun? Like Ava Braun?
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's true. So, but
I don't think we're related, but still, having that in my ancestry is kind of weird.
Well, there you go. So yeah, so a lot of weird stuff going on this week. So
how weird are we talking here?
I don't know. Everybody, you been on your Facebook? Well, you're never on your Facebook. You're out. You're a celebrity. You're out golfing. So
yeah, yes,
golf elbow, whatever the heck that is. So.
That is, I overworked the tendon on the inside of my elbow because of a poor grip on a golf swing, and then I missed when teeing off and dug into the ground, and yeah, I'm off the course for 6 to 12 weeks. So
that's all right.
It's the only way to heal it is to just
the course will thank you later. So
that's true. I made the comment on my own show that you can now rest easy if you're playing ahead of me, that you won't be hearing 4 yelled out every time I tee off.
Yeah, there's a 4, 8, 12.
Yeah, whatever it takes.
If the second time it's 8, the third time it's 12. You got to be 16 or 20. That's when you got to be scared.
Well, and what you're referring to is I got to play in the Spirit of Courage celebrity golf tournament that's put on by Jenny Edmondson Foundation in Council Bluffs, and they actually paired me with Brad Perdue, who is a race car driver, local race car driver, and is really, really good. And Jenny Edmondson sponsors his race car. So I had a phenomenal time. I mean, these guys were just so much fun. And I can probably get away with telling this story on your podcast because I've heard you say bad words before.
Oh, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you don't know what I'm talking about. So I'm up, I don't know, we're about 2/3 of the way through the round. And we had one lady with us, and her husband was also golfing with us. And she was starting to struggle, the heat and time and just been playing a lot. So her game was starting to struggle. And she said, I just can't go any further. She said, how did she word it? She said that something about, I'm just not a fan of sucking. And her husband, as I'm getting ready to putt, says, I remember.
Oh, Lord.
And I had to walk off the green before I could putt. I was laughing so hard. So there you go. I'm setting the bar for what we can talk about today.
Well, Sydney Sweeney has made America great again. So record. So evidently she is the talk of the internet right now because she wore a pair of jeans on television.
Yeah,
on a billboard in New York City. So I don't know what it's like.
Yeah. So she's not supposed to get work because she's in shape and attractive. Is that the thing? Is that not just the exact same thing as fat shaming, only in the opposite direction?
Well, I was going to say, yeah, I'm unattractive and overweight, lots of other stuff, and I got to work. All the thing is, her and me can't practice in the same job. No one wants to see this. Lay it out.
Can you imagine the marketing that you could do right now if you put on a similar outfit to what she was wearing and lay down and do all of that and push that out as advertising for air serve heating and air conditioning,
Hey,
you would clean up.
Hey, you know what? If she was coming to advertise, I am open to marketing opportunities. So.
I'm talking about you being the subject on the
Oh,
picture.
there you go. It just put me out there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Open the shirt a little bit. I think
Bib overalls,
that would
cut
work.
off, cut them off short.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that'd be fucking fantastic. So yeah. So I don't know. Let's see what's going on. Well, got work stuff going on as always. So, it must be political. It must be local political season. I thought we were done with the political stuff. So we had an election last year. It's over with, and half the country's mad, half the country's glad, and there's all kinds of stuff going on. But let's touch on this subject here now. So
you want to go diving into local politics today.
Let's go dig into local politics a little bit, Todd. So
okay, let me. I don't have seatbelts on this chair. I'm operating without a net.
So I've got my good friend Roger Sandow, who happens to be on the city council, putting stuff out.
I'm wondering if your comment didn't go viral, because I have heard from a lot of people that they read it.
To my comment?
To your comment on Roger Sandow's post, yes.
Good, bad, or indifferent?
Well, we'll leave that up to interpretation. But
hey, you know what? You gotta say it. But Roger asked about it. I thought it was it's interesting just to see where people's mindsets are at. So
well, and it was also interesting to see where yours were at, because the fact that you do not get to vote in this election because you're not inside of the city limits, but yet
Pot County, that's the Council Bluffs rural.
Right, but you're not. But you have a business inside of town, and that you have two businesses inside of the city limits of Council Bluffs. So what happens directly affects you. Absolutely. And that kind of, well, I don't know, is should there be an additional addendum to what qualifies somebody to vote in that election? I don't know, because you could say, well, people in Nebraska may have a business in Council Bluffs, so should they be able to vote in the election? I don't know. Mm-hmm. But I do know that the fact that you cannot vote in this election because of where you live, mm-hmm. That directly affects you. So that, how you can have your voice heard is going to be different, because you can't do it in the voting box. Yeah. So I get why you said what you said. And in order to make sure that your opinions were expressed in a platform where people who are voting can see, I get it.
They may not agree with it. Listen, it's an opinion. Everybody's got one. So, but it's definitely political, because I've seen where we got, two city council people now that run for election.
I think there's 4 on the list. I think we've got 4 people running.
And then, of course, I noticed the illustrious Matt Walsh has decided he wants to run for a 4th term. I don't know. Sorry. When it comes to politicians, you know what? 10 years, it's enough. And that's nothing against anybody else. But it's like, I don't know. I guess my mindset is, after 10 years, or 2 terms as a senator, 5 terms as a congressperson, do you really, and once it's past 10 terms, what is it? Is it a legacy? I mean, I don't know. I just, it is nothing against the mayor, although I don't agree with some of the stuff that they've decided to do. But I just think 10 years is enough. Now you don't make a change just to make change. And I guess I'm trying to see, from there and from a city council perspective locally, I haven't even heard about the county board of supervisors, which we'll touch on a little bit. So, since we're going down this road today,
I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to stay neutral in all of this, because with what I do, I don't publicly talk about, who I'm going to vote for or anything like that. I'm with my shows that I do, I'm a conduit for other people's voices. And I've talked with the candidates that I've interviewed already that's the point. To me, I'm not pushing an agenda. I don't even know, when I sit down and talk with one of these folks that are running for office, I don't know what they're going to say. I don't have any preconceived notions about what story I want to tell.
Mm-hmm.
It's their story. It's not mine.
Mm-hmm.
And that, to me, that's way, if folks that do have a vote come November, that's how they can gain information. It's not going to be from me trying to influence them, because I don't think that's my job.
No, it's not. It's just like me. It doesn't matter what I think at the end of the day. And listen, I'm convinced that 95% of the people will probably disagree with me anyway, and I'm okay with that. That's all right. I got a franchise that's like that. They disagree with me all the time. I just keep proving them wrong. It's okay. It's not a problem. Just because everybody else is jumping out of a perfectly good airplane doesn't mean I'm jumping out of a perfectly good airplane. So it's all about perspective. Right. But I see, because I know that there's a couple people that are now running for city council too. They've kind of gone through it. I know this whole, you went down and golfed at Dodge Park on Saturday, and you commented to be about what a great place it is. Now, like I said, and I'm not against golf. I'm a terrible golfer. And I don't think you redevelop. I don't think you redevelop some things for the sake of redevelopment, but I'll tell you what I see, and this says you ever go to maybe a little bit political, but I'll tell you what I see. And I had a talk with one of the city council candidates, and I said, I've watched the county board of supervisors. Frankly, I've had discussions with some people down in Mills County too, because they've had some problems with their planning and development down there, along with their permits and inspections. And I've had some discussions down there with some stuff that they're doing that. I don't live down there either, but my input has been asked, because I'm a proponent of permits and inspections and planning. I think you have to have a planning department, but I'm really amazed that between city and county government and the chamber, and I would probably throw Iowa West into this as well.
You're talking about the Iowa West Foundation.
Yeah,
so
Iowa
for
West.
anybody not familiar.
Yeah, the Iowa West Foundation, about, everybody says they have a vision, they all want it, whatever, but but everybody's got their own version of what that vision is, of Council Bluffs. I had to run some numbers for my franchise president here about 3 months ago just to prove a point, and I wasn't very nice when I proved the point. But if you take a look at, since I went into business in 2009, and so I ran numbers from 2009 up through the end of 2024. Compared myself, take a look at demographics versus versus here versus in Omaha. Omaha. So if you take a look at Douglas, Sarpy County, and Potawatomi and Mills County. So if you take a look from 2010 till now, Potawatomi and Mills County has actually got a negative population growth of 426 based off numbers from 2009 to now in Southwest Iowa. And if you take a look at the median income growth, the median income growth over that period has grown an average of about 4 to 5% a year. To kind of get you an idea, if you go across the river into Douglas and Sarpy County, they have, between the two counties, they've seen well over 100,000. It's been almost 200,000 population growth, and you've seen their population income increase. Not the population, but the median income raised by 40% overall. In fact, if you go to Douglas County, the median income, believe it or not, on one of the numbers was well over 100,000. So so we talk about so it comes back to, you talk about things about Dodge Park. We talk about development in the city versus the county, and some of the rules that are here, with Iowa code, as far as what cities can do as far as annexing or not annexing, stuff. I'm looking at something here real quick.
Okay. Still doing business. We got to record a podcast, but business continues.
Yeah, of course it does. But you take a look at what the kind of, here's my question: what are we doing? We've got Iowa West, which is using the money from the casinos, and the casinos are down right now. The casino industry is changing as a whole, from sports bet apps, even Vegas, with what's going on. And so the building, brick and mortar buildings that we've had around for a year, plus now you got competition in Nebraska. The casino money is going to still be there, but I don't think it's going to be there like it has been in the past. But the money's there to be spent. You take a look, like I said, housing development, you look at urban development, you take a look at, look at some of the stuff that's going on down along Highway 370, which is technically in Mills County, and they're talking about annexing that stuff. Well, I can tell you from conversations I've had, part of the issue is that with Mills County is that they have not done a great job with their planning and zoning as far as having a plan together for managed growth. It's one of the reasons you have planning and zoning and development, so you can plan for growth. And I just see a lot of politicians out there, and politics. I say people. I won't say how politicians that are out there, and if you want to grow this, or if you want to bring more people to the area, what is going to bring people into Council Bluffs and Pot County and Mills County. I'll bring in Mills County into this as well, into the area. I think a fair cost of living. Everybody talks about affordable housing, but what's affordable housing by today's standards compared to 2017 is a totally different number. And we know that wages have not kept up with the number. I mean, a house on the west end of Council Bluffs is averaging $200,000 now, where maybe 10, 15 years ago was 100, 125, 130.
Even less than that.
Yeah,
there was a number of homes that were available over there for in the $79,000, $85,000 range.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you take a look at that. You take a look at, you just take a look at, the jobs as far as what's coming into the community. I mean, and there's a new pallet place coming to town, which is good. And I think they have a great opportunity to, come in and do something. But we need more entrepreneurship. We need more development of small. Listen, the big jobs are great. The Amazons, the whatever that we got going on, the Facebook and Google stuff. That's great, but we need more nuts and bolts jobs in the area. There's a lot of work right now that's being outsourced, over to companies in Nebraska because, there are companies in Nebraska that can do it, in Iowa that don't. I feel like there is, and Lord knows I'm not a Nebraska football fan, but if you take a look at what they've been doing economically, they have figured out over there how to incentivize growth and development in them two counties over there. And why we can't figure that same thing out over here, I don't get it. And I gotta believe that it's communication and development. I think, like I said, there's some Iowa code stuff that restricts it too, but I think we're missing out on a huge opportunity. I think every politician's out there, because when I ask about a city county merger, streamlining some of the stuff and some of the development stuff, and they say, "Oh, they're talking," but are they talking? You never, I asked the chamber that last week about it, Jacob Cool, and he kind of walked around the answer because, like he said, we're trying, with county board of supervisors. We have communications with the city, but then, the city's got people besides, the mayor. He's got, Brandon Garrett, who is basically his chief of staff, but I know has been heavily involved with, redevelopment and the streetcar and some of the stuff that he would like to see. And that's been a big part of the city vision, which I don't necessarily agree with, but I'll be honest. I live out in the country. If you think I'm going to go ride a streetcar from Omaha to Council Bluffs or vice versa, I'm just not going to. Sorry. I like my diesel pickup, and when I want to go home, I want to go home. It is what it is. So, yeah, I don't know. I think, from what I see, I think we're too busy as a community worried about shiny things than we're tackling problems. I know a lot of people about the homeless, and listen, the homeless is a real issue. It's probably as bad as I've ever seen it, and the transient community. I know there's a lot of issues on the west end when you talk about Council Bluffs as far as flooding, which certain people who name nameless would just like to bury their head and just assume that it's not a problem, and things are all, hunky dory. I worry that I worry that a lot of our politicians and our people that are running for these spots, they say they say they want to do better. They want to come in and bring certain things, but I question, if they aren't just burying their head in the sand for their own agendas. I don't know. I think there's some people that are hurting. I think there's some economic things that need to happen to help spur growth. Listen, on the email I called out Iowa Western. I mean, and Iowa Western's not a bad program as far as a school per se, but for what I do, and I've had very open conversations about them. Listen, I'm looking at sending guys to Sioux City for apprenticeship training because I can't get what I want to get here in Council Bluffs. With their program. And so, I'm very vocal about it because I want to have trained people, I want to have skilled people, but we need growth, we need entrepreneurship. And that's the thing. I don't hear one person talk about entrepreneurship and, developing opportunities here locally. And I just think as a whole, they're all missing the boat, and they're more worried about the politics and streetcars and redevelopment of stuff versus putting a better comprehensive city county plan together to make it a win-win for everybody. And I just do not, for the life of me, understand it.
Well, let me play devil's advocate here a little bit. And believe me, I'm not qualified
Yeah.
to
I'm
make.
I'm probably not either.
However, from the comments that I've heard regarding the streetcar and, with a streetcar connecting, downtown Council Bluffs, essentially, I mean, it sounded like they're running it all the way to Bayless Park, out into Midtown in Omaha. Was that what I think was how far that the thing was going? What I hear was that they took a look at Kansas City and what Kansas City had done with theirs, and it's all developed up and down where that is, and it became a huge tourist attraction, and it draws people in from outside that spend money into local businesses. So that's, I believe, what they are saying is that would be the benefit of everything from that. Now, again, I'm not qualified to make a decision or even have an opinion about, is that true? Is it not true? I don't know. I'm some guy with a microphone. That's all I do,
Yeah.
So, but I do hear that, and that would be the counter to what you are referring to with there's more important things to look at.
Well, and like I said, as I have experience in my years of business, just because it works in Kansas City or in Des Moines doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work here. And that doesn't mean you don't try to do certain things. But I'm not a blue sky. There's a lot of blue sky out there. It's kind of like you could buy ocean property in Arizona, right? So, um, I'm a real numbers person. What is the true ROI? Don't give me potential. Listen, if Mark Gronowski throws for 500 yards a game and Iowa shuts everybody out, they could go 12-0. That's blue sky. Guess what? Mark Gronowski for Iowa was not going to throw for 500 yards a game, and Iowa was not going to shut everybody out. That's so.
So what you're saying then is you don't want a game of ifs here. It's not an if then kind of thing. You want real numbers.
Yeah, and I think real numbers, real credible numbers. I mean, engineering. Here's the thing: you can send it to an engineering firm or an architect firm. Um, uh, as far as that's concerned. But I know that's what they try to do. That's one survey, and I think that's part of what happened with the Dodge Ripper. Well, potentially, and that's one of the things that happened. And it's like until you see numbers, you really don't know. And so anything you do, you take it with an investment. And so, and that's why I said how. Okay, so if you redevelop, So if you redevelop, the from Bayless Park, and I know they've talked about that. So, they spent 20 years tearing out railroad tracks and getting rid of stuff between TJ, the elevator, and all this stuff.
Mhm.
So we can turn around and rebuild railroad tracks that were already there, so we could run a trolley downtown because we're going to spur economic growth. It's like, okay, we already spent the money once to get rid of this. Now we're spending the money to, um, you know, so, um, um,
Yeah, back to real business again here for just a second,
yeah,
and and this is the reality of Travis, of what you putting together this podcast and going out and doing this thing, and I appreciate the hard work that you do, because you still have two businesses that you're running there,
mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
yeah.
So if you take a look at it, it's like, okay, so we've made this investment, tear this out to make it so kids don't have to go to TJ, in front of TJ, because that was always an issue with the railroad before. Well, it kind of, so we're going to build a trolley and do the same thing. So, which to me, it's like, are we thinking about this stuff? And that's where I just scratched my head. It's like, okay, we got rid of this for a season, and to me, Sandy's doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So, you put a railroad track, you put a trolley. Okay, 20 years from now, we don't know what the long term effect is. How many places are willing to sign up and invest and build. Plus the other thing, there's some property along First Avenue. But there, once you get down towards Bayless Park, are people going to want to sell? What's going to redevelop? How long is it going to take it to redevelop? What kind of clientele are you expecting to move into that area? So I think there's a lot of questions there, to where I think it's more questions than answers. And I think it's more of a, hey, let's have a streetcar that will come. And I guess my thought is, the potential's already there. My opinion is let Omaha build it first, have the spur available if we decide we want to tack onto it. But I'm not sure we jump on the trend in this front end of things. Let's see how it develops over there first before we jump on board with it, because at the end of the day, it may or may not make sense. And just because it's going to be developed in downtown Omaha doesn't mean it's going to necessarily work over here. Now you could argue the Bob pedestrian bridge. I've never been across. I've drove by it 100 times, but Bob pedestrian bridge, I think it is a good thing. That they have that bridge. I think a lot of people use it. I know they're still trying to develop stuff on the west end there by the river. Some of the housing I don't think has ever been finished. They've built several new buildings down there, and they have a hard time filling them because I don't know if it's rent or the logistics or
The residential side of it is filled. It's the business side that has struggled to get commercial tenants in over there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a number of reasons why that could be. I've got my opinions about it, but again, I'm just a schlep with a microphone. And also,
the Mid America Center's had issues for years trying to get people to stay in there. It's, they built the Iowa West. One of the things, the sports complex and the soccer complex, they got people in there all the time. So between the hotels, those are two things that people thought about, and I think have done very well for the community.
And here I will say this, as a business owner, because I did check on these different spaces, it's too expensive.
Mm-hmm.
You're out of my price range.
Yeah.
I can't afford it. And there is, I personally think that it's out of the price range of most places.
It is.
And I wonder why it's better for a place to sit empty for 10 years than to cut the price and collect some, lease money from it. I don't know the answer to that. I'm sure that there are some people that see it and what that is for, but that's my issue, is that it's too pricey for most of the businesses that I know that are in town.
Yeah. Yeah, and unfortunately, that kind of falls back to plan and development, and I know there's been some stuff down along Veterans Highway and other places that have kind of tried to build, business incubators or shells for warehouses and what they are, that are more affordable, listen, I think you could probably build 50 of them, and you'd probably fill a lot of them out if the price range is right. I mean, if you can get a place for 1,500 to 2,500 bucks a month, it's not terrible. But even for some people, that's not realistic, as for a small business, especially
Mhm.
if you're in an office space and you're not needing a storefront. If you could find 500 bucks a month, you know what I'm saying, or 600, and that's the thing. I think that gets missed out because we're always chasing the big shiny things. Um, so, and like I said, I don't have all the answers either. I'd be lying if I do, but I just I know there's been lots of time and there's been money spent, but has there ever been some collaboration said, okay, here's what we want this area to look like in 5, 10, and 20 years, 25 years from a city and county perspective or an area perspective, on the Iowa side of the river, and said, okay, here's what this is going to look like. Because if you look at the numbers, I mean, yeah, they're building a Mid America Tower. They got the Iowa West Center, the Sportsplex, which I think is great. They got the Soccerplex, I think, which has been fantastic. They got the ballpark, which is fantastic, and it's bringing in revenue. And you got traveling teams coming up, but we're not attracting people to live and work here. And so, and put all your eggs in one basket that didn't get passed for whatever reason. I just think we got to be thinking bigger picture, and for the city to grow. The city's in a position to where growing is difficult for them because of the county growth, and I think there's a lot of services that are redundant that could be worked a whole lot better, and I think you could have a lot better a community that's a lot more productive, and maybe some of the money spent towards bringing jobs here versus having them go over to Nebraska. And I don't have the answers, but I just look at it, and I just when I hear a lot of this stuff, it's like, okay, if you don't have ROI and if you're not going to get more people over here to live and work, I have justify. I don't think you tear up an area that's been around for a long time to try to redevelop it on just for hope. I think you have to. I think you got to think bigger picture than what any of the politicians around here have thought. But you know, um, but that's my opinion. So.
Well, the big problem that we have, and I didn't realize it until I heard Brandon talk, a few months ago, was that part of the reason that Omaha has been able to grow the way that they have is the annexation laws in Nebraska are so much easier than
Mm-hmm.
what they are in Iowa. And it is very, very difficult for the city of Council Bluffs to annex more property inside of the city limits. I have no clue what the process is, none whatsoever. I'm basing this off of information that I got from someone else.
Mm-hmm.
So, or at least this is what I was told by him, and but it makes sense,
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
because I mean we have areas that to me seem like it's inside the city limits, and it's not.
it's not.
It's not. It's part of the county. And because that's when the house sells, that's one of the things they talk about. It's county taxes. It's not city taxes. How is that possible? You're inside the. I never left a neighborhood. you know.
Well, and there's some areas right behind the fire station at Valley View that are in the
Yeah.
county. Like, oh, we're in town. It's like not this street. This street's county. 2 blocks up, that is city, and that's because of how it's broke up.
And you go up into those neighborhoods, and they're on. I think they're on city water now, but there's still septic systems in there,
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
and that's it. I don't understand why that division has happened. What I hear is we've got county officials and city officials that just want to, they seem to butt heads quite a bit. There's not a consensus over what is best for who. And
and that's part of my issue. Is like this should be if they're truly about growth and bringing economic development and bringing development into their city and county need to get together and put together a long term plan and look at it as a partnership instead of a fight. And for whatever reason, I know there's the eastern half of Pot County because it goes halfway to Des Moines, and you always have that argument. But for the growth, they need both sides to work together to be able to make this work, or they're going to have a hard time attracting more people. And that's it. And like I said, that's why I said you're going to have to find ways to work around the Iowa code. And as far as the annexing goes, and find ways to where the city and county can. They could say well, we have a working agreement. Well, okay, so what have you accomplished with this working agreement? What does that mean? What, you talk once a month and nothing happens? Or, you put a 5-year, 10-year, 15-year vision together where the city and county officials get together and, they talk about some of the planning and some of the goals that they'd like to see. And what's it going to take to develop it? Because it's a win-win. It's just like down on 370. You know what? The waterworks is down there. That's technically in Mills County, but they're working with the city to get the utilities down there to do whatever, whether it's a packing house or the double dark secret, whatever Brandon Garrett told me it was,
Well, let's not dig too hard against Brandon Garrett.
Because, I like Brandon, but he says, well, I can't tell you what it is. It's not a disclosure. It's like, okay, but my point is, there's times where both sides of the work, it's just like the water out of Avoca, so let's go to the eastern half of the county. It's Council Bluffs Waterworks, which I know it's not technically part of the city, but it's the waterworks out there that's going to feed regional water to help regional water stay viable. Regional water feeds a lot of Pot County and several counties around. So that's why I said there's collaboration in other areas, and that's why I don't understand why the city and county officials can't sit down and once a month and have some meetings and plan a long-term process versus what we have going on now. And until that changes, I don't see this area growing. That's my opinion.
Well, and jumping back to a little bit to what you were talking about with the elections that are coming up. As I said, I'm not going to give publicly, I won't give my opinion about any specific candidate. Mm-hmm. That just won't happen. However, I will comment on the process. And it's not just here, it's everywhere. It's all across the country that this is how we do things. I wonder how I can be qualified to make a decision on who should have those positions. Because number one, I don't know everything that they do. I don't know everything that goes on in the city council. I don't know everything that goes on in the mayor's office. I don't know, and I don't know that I ever will because it's such a huge amount of information. So why has that decision been placed in my lap? Now, again, who I vote for, there's no guarantee they're going to win. But it seems like an odd way of doing things that, our system is a popularity contest. And it seems like we are hiding information instead of being open about information that we need in order to make a qualified and informed decision. It's just, who has the most signs in the yards or who, smiles the prettiest on camera or anything like that. It seems like an odd system to me. Mm-hmm. Because how important is it in our day-to-day lives? I've talked about this before that, who wins the mayor's race and who wins the city council race has a whole lot more to do with my life than who is sitting in an office in Washington. And I'm talking about day-to-day life. My personal day-to-day life is decided more by this election coming up in November here locally. And it's the same for any place in the country that where you live, your day-to-day existence is more dependent on your local officials than it is on national officials. I'm saying they still are important. It's not an either or. Can you see right back here the word "and" over my shoulder? I don't know if it's going to show up inside of the video or not. There's a reason that exists because it is this and this, not this or this. Yeah. Well, but still, I will vote. Obviously, I will do the best that I can to have an opinion, but it needs to be more than, what slogan did you come up with?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey, listen, Joe Mann, 2016 Cubs try not to suck. That's a great slogan. I love
it. When Nebraska came out with Nebraska, it's not for everyone.
Boy, that's
all of us on this side of the river laughed. But think about it. Nebraska was now the topic of conversation for quite a while across the country.
Well, it's definitely not for everybody.
It was actually genius doing it that way. Mm-hmm. So, but again, that particular slogan, should that make a decision on, I want to go to Nebraska now, it's a weird way of doing things. And, I've often wondered about how we can get the most qualified candidate people in there, because if you're hiring a new CEO for a company, you're not having a public vote with all the employees to decide who's coming in. That doesn't happen.
Yeah,
It's decided by people who actually have knowledge. But
yeah,
that's not the answer either, because as we all know, power has a tendency to corrupt. And if you start throwing enough money at things, you know, cigarettes are still legal to buy in a gas station. Explain that to me.
yeah. There you go. So
Drunk driving is illegal, but yet we sell single beers in a
yeah,
gas station.
yeah, yeah.
You know?
Hey, everybody's got rights, but so
Yeah,
the
everybody's got rights, but
no one,
also,
no one remembers responsibility until they go, "Oh shit, I
yeah,
got in trouble." Now everybody's responsible. How the hell am I going to work my way out of this one? And
yeah.
everybody, including myself, I mean, we've all been there. So, yeah, I no. As far as like I said, I really don't care how many boards you've been on. I really don't care how many things you've done. And if you're a single minded issue, I think if you're voting on one issue and one issue alone, I mean, I get where certain people feel that way. They're gonna stick their freaking plow in the ground and it ain't gonna move. I get it, but I think you have to look overall. Um, but I'm a like I said, you know what? I like my dessert too. I like my chocolate cake with ice cream. I get it, but you know what? I'm a meat and potatoes guy, and for me, or nuts and bolts guy. What's it going to take to get the job done? What's it going to take to get things done and improve? And then if we want to throw some, we want to throw some dessert and a side dish or whatever, then that's great. But the nuts and bolts, the tackling and blocking need to get done before we bring in all the shiny things. And so that's why I said I my biggest thing is all this stuff. There's gonna be a lot of promises and whatever, and they'll probably a lot of them come will talk to me. They might not come talk to me, but and I don't care. But I just I think if you're talking one issue or two issues, I think you got to take a look at collectively and see. And frankly, it doesn't matter if they got a D or R or I in front of their name or after their name. Because when it comes to local stuff, does that really? How much does that matter? So, um, but
Can we just bring back the wig party? Will that help?
the wigs and tours or whatever it is.
There was, or what was it, Federalist and Non-Federalist or something? Was that, or didn't that used to be the two parties? I don't know. What I can say though, and I have a feeling that, I mean, based on your comment on someone else's page and how often I was hearing feedback on that, I have a feeling that this may actually go out a little bit further than what we're used to. So let me say this: if someone's listening and you're still listening and you're going to make comments, have an opinion, please. You're welcome to your opinion and you're welcome to express it. If it goes personal and it turns into name calling, don't do it. And I'm talking to anybody who would make a comment about, whether it's here or whether it's anyone else. Express your opinion, but when it dissolves down into name calling and you are, calling people idiots or something like that, you have just invalidated your opinion, in my opinion, that you have nothing left but to be insulting.
Well, as Pat McAfee says on his show, these opinions are explicitly my opinions are for entertainment purposes only. If you disagree or whatever else, that's well within your right. But if you want to have a pissing match on it, you go kick rocks.
What I have told people I've told people who have tried to engage in one of those contests with me that, look, let's get together. Let's sit down over a cup of coffee and face each other across a table, looking eye to eye, not this keyboard warrior stuff where we're all sitting safe and, we can look at something as we have the time and have the energy to do it. Let's have a real conversation, and I'll be respectful, you be respectful, and that's what we'll do.
Yeah, that's
nobody will do it.
Yeah, well, listen, I'm always willing to have a conversation if someone wants to tell me why I'm wrong, and I'm always open for a conversation. Yeah, I'm not much of and like I said, the question got asked, and I threw my opinion out there, and there's Like I said, as it is, I have no say in the city election. The county board of supervisors, and that's why election or the school board election, and of course I see Iowa West is trying to get their bond issue back. So I did see that one. So, if you basically they did a good job explaining. They said, we're going to run another bond out, and they explained, well, maybe they'll sell it a little bit better this time and they'll hit the 60% threshold. I don't think. Listen, I'm all about improvement of the city. I'm improvement of the area. Improvement of individuals. Nobody likes the homeless issue, but I think you have to tackle it head on. The jobs and the economy and the growth, I think, is a very important issue. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you I have the answers. But what I do know is that if you're not working together, it's no different in my business. I've got 20 individuals that do their thing. If we don't work together as a team, we can't get stuff done. And I think I wish we'd look at it that way a lot more in this area, is that, we need to collaborate. And listen, we're not going to agree with everything. Listen, it's no secret I do not love the metal art on South 24th Street. It's not a secret. Okay? So Bluffs Art Council, I'm sorry. I know you build it, whatever. There's some people think it's great. I don't. But you know what? That's okay. I don't have to agree with everything, but if it's something that's going to help and improve and grow the community and have it be a community we want to be, proud of and grow. And I think everybody wants to see growth and development and more jobs and more opportunities come into here. That's where you have to be open to the conversations. I think the dialogue needs to open up. And I think as an area, we need to do a better job of it. So, and if that means me, saying all the politicians or whatever, then, I'm not calling them by names. I'm not doing anything. I just think as a group, we could do a whole lot better in collaboration. And I'm always willing to sit in a meeting as long as it's productive. So
I 100% agree with that. We need, what happens in the county and what happens in the city here is affecting the same people. So there needs to be at least communication, honest, open dialogue. Here's why we are deciding this instead of just, we're not doing that. Mm-hmm. Well, why? Because we need to know. I mean, if you want me to understand why you are making the decisions that you're making and be able to support those decisions, then you need to explain them.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we're not doing a very good job with that. And especially with the two entities back and forth to each other. Yeah. They're not, personally, I think there should be maybe a monthly meeting between, the two sides, with the county and with the city, and talking about common issues that affect both sides and not be button heads again. Full of opinions. I'm going to get the T-shirt. I only have opinions. I don't have facts. Yeah. But still, that one I think would be important.
Yeah. So, yeah.
All right. So you got me actually to give my opinion a little bit more than I was going to.
I did go where you thought this was going to go. So.
No, not so much.
So you got Petra's Talk Politics. So, but it's out there. You ever want to talk to me about it? Like I said, me and my wife don't agree on politics either. So don't ask my wife. She'll tell you I'm full of it. I'll tell you she's full of it. It's okay. We are a house divided. It is not a problem.
As long as she's not a Husker fan.
No, she's not that. So.
Okay.
You would like for me to be a Chiefs fan. I won't do that. But.
All right, sir. Well, as always, grateful for your time. And we'll see what happens from this one.
All right. Sounds good. Take care.